One reason for the Islanders' recent poor play is the disappointing performance of their defensemen. We take a deep dive into that and preview tonight's game against the Senators on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. And now you can find us on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On Islanders. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Lots to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X now at Locked On Isles, or you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders. And I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. And it's always great to talk Isles hockey, game time or anytime with you. All right. So let's talk about, I think, early on in the season, what is the elephant in the room? And we touched on it a little bit yesterday. Everydayers will be aware of that. But I think there's just more to it. And right now, I think one big problem that the Islanders are indeed having has been the poor play of their defensemen, really on both sides of the ice. And you look at the numbers, Noah Dobson right now has a goal and 5 points in 5 games. He also happens to lead the team with 19 blocked shots, which is a little bit of a surprise. I wouldn't have guessed that Dobber would be the guy leading the team in blocked shots. And after, a little bit of a shaky start in the first game or two, he has really picked up his play on both ends of the ice. But you have Dobson with 5 points. And then no other defenseman has a goal. And then you have Ryan Pulock with 1 assist, Adam Pelech with 1 assist, and that's it. Samuel Bolduc, no points in 4 games. Scott Mayfield, no points in 1 game. Alexander Romanov, no points in 5 games. And, okay. I don't expect these defensemen, other than Dobson and maybe Aho, to be very productive offensively. That's not Alexander Romanov's game. It's really not Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock's strength either. And Scott Mayfield, while he's capable of pitching in offensively, he's not going to give you 30 points or 25 points most likely in a season. He's going to give you the 15 to 20 points, maybe 25 tops, but realistically, he's more of a defensive defenseman. That's his role. But the problem is, not only are the Islanders defensemen not pinching in and pitching in as much to provide offense, but they're not doing a particularly good job of playing in their own zone. And this is a bit of a surprise, especially with Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock, who have both had their struggles when you more or less expect them to be among the better defensive defensemen in the, on the team, certainly, and at least solid defensive defensemen among the league. So, here, Pelech has been on the ice for 8 goals against 5-on-5 in 5 games. Noah Dobson, 6. Ryan Pulock, 2. Sebastian Aho and Samuel Bolduc, 1 each. Now, again, they don't play a lot of minutes, especially Bolduc. And then Alexander Romanov and Scott Mayfield have yet to be on ice for a goal against. But it is very concerning that these guys are just, the numbers back up the fact that they have been shaky in their own zone. And again, during the offseason, Lou Lamoriello spoke about needing a puck-moving defenseman. In fact, he spoke about it not just during the 2023 summer, but during the 2022 summer and before the 2022 trade deadline. And look, I don't have to say this to everydayers, but we all know that puck-moving defenseman has not been acquired. And whether it's because of the Islanders' cap squeeze or Lou Lamoriello's preference for continuity or the fact that, there's just not a lot of ammunition right now to acquire a good puck-moving defenseman because the prospect pool is considered one of the lowest ranked in the NHL right now, and you don't want to give up a 5th consecutive number 1 draft pick. There's a lot of reasons, but we still don't have that player who is going to take the transition game to the next level. And, you go back and look at the numbers for the Islanders in the first 2 games of the season. They gave up a grand total of 2 goals in those 2 games. Since then, they have given up 15 goals in the last 3 games. Yeah, okay. 2 of the goals against Colorado were empty net goals, but it doesn't change the fact, even if you subtract them, 13 goals in 3 games is not where you want to be for a New York Islanders team that is supposed to be defense first. And when something like this happens, when your team is struggling to do what it normally does best, realistically, the job is to get back to basics. And we need to see this Islander team get back to basics. And just, the old expression is, keep it simple, stupid, kiss. When things aren't going well and you're struggling, that's when you need to keep it simple. And I'm hoping that the Islanders can find a way to do that. Not going to necessarily be easy against the Senators. Ottawa is a pretty competitive team. One of the teams the Islanders will likely be fighting for one of those final playoff berths with. And, they need to improve pretty quickly if they're going to get back on track. Now, we have got a lot more to get to on today's show, including we'll have a full preview of that game tonight at UBS Arena against the Ottawa Senators. We'll talk about the Senators' line combinations. Plus, on our Islanders' birthday of the day, a veteran who the Islanders acquired late in the 74-75 season, who went on to really help that team go on their first long playoff run. Let's see if you can guess who that is. So we've got all of that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And look, you can bet on the NFL, college football, the baseball playoffs, and of course, you can use your knowledge of the New York Islanders on FanDuel as well. So check out all the latest odds. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Jace Medical. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world today, and it's important to be prepared. There's unrest in the Middle East, fires in Hawaii, hurricanes and tornadoes in Florida, earthquakes, and more. And these things can lead to supply chain shortages for medication or the inability to get medications in a timely manner. Well, the Jace case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. And now you can also customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. And look, you can even get yourself gift cards for a family or friend or loved one so they can get a Jace case of their own. Go to jacemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. Check it out. So the Islanders set to play the Ottawa Senators tonight. Big game. Islanders need to get back on track, but so do the Sens. Ottawa right now 3-3 on the young season, but they have lost their last 2 games, falling at home against Detroit 5-2 and then 6-4 to the Buffalo Sabres, also in Ottawa. Now Ottawa on the road, but right now the Sens are also trying to figure things out, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not they are able to do that. Now, goaltending has been an issue. They've been sort of rotating between Joonas Korpisalo and Anton Forsberg. Forsberg playing better right now. He is 2-1-0 with a 3.01 goals against average and an 873 save percentage. Korpisalo 1-2-0, a 3.63 goals against and an 872 save percentage. So neither goalie is playing particularly well. And right now it's all offense, but shaky defense for Ottawa. They are 6th in the league in goals scored, but 21st in the league in goals against. The power play is 12th, the penalty kill 22nd. So clearly, the offense has been much better than the defense. Vladimir Tarasenko right now leading the team with 8 points. He has 5 assists, which ties him with Tim Stützle for the team lead in that category. And Brady Tkachuk has 4 goals to lead the team there. He also has 34 penalty minutes, which leads the Sens. And you look at the line combinations, very dangerous top line with some familiar names. Brady Tkachuk, who is always difficult to play against. Tim Stützle and Claude Giroux from left to right. That's the top line. Josh Norris centers the second line with Dominic Kubalik and Drake Batherson on either side of him. Ridley Gregg is the third line center, Matthew Joseph, the left wing, and Vladimir Tarasenko on the right. And then Rourke Cartier is the fourth line center. Parker Kelly and Mark Kostelic are his wingers. Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot are the top pair. Jacob Chychrun and Travis Hamonic, the former Islander, are the second pairing. And then Eric Brandstrom and Jacob Bernard Docker are the third defensive unit. That's where they are kind of vulnerable. Artem Zub right now listed as day-to-day. We'll see whether or not he is able to play. Your goalies, Forsberg and Korpisalo, as we mentioned. So Islanders are going to have to be certainly aware. Now, for the Islanders, interestingly enough, they went back to this line combination in practice on Wednesday. Horvat, Lee, and Barzal on the top line. Nelson, Engvall, and Palmieri, the second line. But it's J.G. Pajot, Simon Holmstrom, and Oliver Wahlstrom again on the third line. Cal Clutterbuck back on the fourth line with Casey Cizikas and Matt Martin. Meanwhile, no Scott Mayfield in practice on Wednesday. Dobson and Pelech, Romanov and Pulock, Bolduc and Aho are the defense combinations with Sorokin and Varley in goal. Your extra forwards, Hudson Fasching and Julian Gauthier. And look, here are the keys for the Islanders. They've got to get back to playing Islanders hockey. They cannot be this run and gun team and try to outscore the opponent 7-5. They're not going to win a lot of games doing that. So we'll see what happens with that, but they've got to get back to playing defense first, structured hockey in order to win. The special teams have got to be better and primarily stay out of the penalty box. We've already discussed that, the power play for the Sens is pretty darn good. And, again, you look at that power play unit, the names, Tkachuk, Norris, Batherson, Stützle on the point. And then the second unit has Kubalik, Tarasenko, and Giroux up front. These are not easy players to defend on the power play. So let's stop taking those dumb penalties, stay out of the penalty box, and go back to the basics of smart Islanders hockey. I know this team is capable of doing it, but really, it is going to be very important for the Islanders coaching staff, Lane Lambert and company, to get this team, this veteran team, back on track. And do not, part of that getting back to Islanders hockey, do not give these guys time and space through the neutral zone. Keep it simple, get back to basics, and you can win this hockey game at home. We talked about the importance of a fast start every day, as we have. You got a lot of home games early in this schedule and a lot of games against teams that did not make the playoffs last year. In fact, the next 4 games are all against teams that did not make the playoffs. Ottawa, Columbus, Detroit, Washington. You got to be picking up points now when most of your games are at home and when you're playing some teams that struggled last year and did not make the playoffs. Let's hope the Islanders can get back on track and do just that. We have got more to get to on today's show. We'll talk a little bit more about the necessary structure that this team needs to play with. Plus, we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Bo Horvat could score 50 goals. The Islanders could hoist the Stanley Cup, and you could win big by playing fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. So, if you want to bet on the number of saves that Ilya Sorokin will make in a game, or the number of shots that Bo Horvat would take, all of that can be done on the app. All you got to do is pick whether these kinds of players will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Islander fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you could start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL, one word. See Sleeper's terms of use for detail and locational availability. So, structure. Something the Islanders just need to get back to. And here's what Lane Lambert said a week ago after Saturday, after the Saturday night loss to Buffalo. Through the neutral zone, just our puck management, it has to be better. The intentions are good, but unintended consequences come along with that. When you turn the puck over, and certainly against fast teams in transition, then you find yourself back in your own zone and spending way too much time there. Cal Clutterbuck adds, I think it's just a question of being able to execute from your own goal line to get it down to the other end with speed. We were trying to get it in, but we didn't have as much speed on the puck. We did a better job of that through the second half of the game. This is against Colorado, and you see the result. The Islanders need to get back to Islanders hockey. And another part of that, special teams. Boy, oh boy, have the Islanders struggled on special teams. And part of the problem is that when you're playing unstructured hockey and turning the puck over and not moving your feet, you're chasing the other team. And when you're chasing, you hook, you trip, you hold, and you create penalties. Right now, special teams is killing the Islanders. They are 23rd on the power play, which is better than they were a year ago, but only 12.5% success rate. But the penalty kill, which was one of their better features last year, 28th in the league, only killing off 68.8% of your PK. And you got to be, if you're the Islanders, you've got to be better than that. We mentioned that Ilya Sorokin, for the first time in his NHL career, has given up 5 goals or more in back-to-back games. But you know what? I don't blame Sorokin. Quite honestly, the breakdown of structure, the turnovers, the penalties. Yeah, Sorokin has made some unbelievable saves, but how many soft goals has he given up? 1, 2 over those out of the 10 he gave up in the last 2 games? Not many. He bailed them out a lot more than they've helped him. And it's something that this team is going to have to get back to. The special teams can't be in the bottom third of the league in both power play and penalty kill. Last year, the power play almost undid the Islanders' playoff chances with how bad it was. And it probably was the biggest reason they lost in that first round playoff series to the Carolina Hurricanes. But the PK was solid. It's got to be better. And again, when you have teams like the Sabres and the Avalanche and the Devils who are faster than the Islanders, number one, you got to stay out of the box, can't give them more time and space. And number two, and this is a question I have for Lane Lambert, why aren't you putting some of your faster players on the ice? And let's start with Julien Gauthier, who is a very fast skater. Shouldn't he be out there skating against teams that have speed the same way in the past that you would put Ross Johnston on the ice against a team that was more physical? I think the Islanders have to sort of figure this out and rethink it. But these are questions that I think the team needs to address and address it pretty soon. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And this is a player who I think may be a little overlooked by younger fans who don't remember him playing. But as someone who remembers the 1975 Islanders playoff run, this guy was absolutely vital to the team's success. I'm talking about Jude Drouin, who basically will turn 75 on the 28th. So that is on Saturday. Originally a third-round pick by the Canadiens back in 1966. Made his NHL debut with Montreal in 68-69, but didn't become a regular till he joined the Minnesota North Stars in 1970-71. Had a 27-goal, 73-point season in 72-73. And then midway through the 74-75 season, was traded to the Islanders. And the 74-75 Islanders were a young team struggling to figure out how good they can be. And adding Jude Drouin and J.P. Parise, Zach's dad, in two trades with the North Stars, I think it was 2 days apart in February of 1975, made a huge difference. In his first 40 games with the Islanders, Jude Drouin had 32 points, 14 goals. I mean, that's a 27 goal pace over 28 goal pace over an 80 game season, which is what they had back then. And then in the playoffs, when the Islanders went all the way to the semifinals and forced a Game 7, in 17 playoff games, 6 goals, 18 points. So a point a game in the playoffs. Drouin was clutch. He was good on faceoffs, and he made a big difference in the leadership because he had playoff experience and knew what it took to win in the NHL. So he and J.P. Parise really helped this Islanders team. We're going to look at one of his bigger goals as an Islander, May 7th, 1975, at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Game 4 of the Islanders semifinal series with the defending Stanley Cup champion Broad Street Bullies, the Philadelphia Flyers. Islanders trailing in the series 3-0. The season is on the line. And in this game, it is Jude Drouin who ends it a minute and 53 seconds into overtime. His 4th goal of the playoffs. J.P. Parise and Ed Westfall with the assists, beating Hall of Famer Bernie Parent. And the Islanders stay alive and basically survive to go to Game 5 in Philadelphia the very next night. Now, this series ended up going a full 7 games. The Islanders ended up winning games 4, 5, and 6, but couldn't eliminate the Flyers in Game 7. But Jude Drouin, just a huge part of the Islanders' success, and that game-winning playoff goal was huge. Glenn Chico Resch, 36 saves to get the win as the Islanders defeated the Flyers 4-3 to extend the series. Always exciting. That 75 playoff run was something to behold. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we will have our key takeaways from the game against the Ottawa Senators. Plus, we will preview the game on Saturday in Columbus against the Blue Jackets and get you prepared for a big weekend of hockey. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. And of course, let's go Islanders.